Let's start our session. Good evening, everyone. On behalf of ITPA KRC, as its secretary, I take this opportunity to wish all members of ITPA KRC and other participants of this web talk a very happy new year. The web talk series of ITPA KRC towards better planning implementation was initiated in the year 2021 and have been successfully conducting it every year since then. This year also, we are continuing it. As part of making our built environment a better place to live, today's talk, Healthy Cities Through Healthy Streets, through local area plans is arranged. The local area plans are micro-level plans prepared for the redevelopment, regeneration, or retrofitting of an already developed brownfield area. For handling this session, we have Srimati Ashwathi Dilip, who is the Managing Director, hers, Institute for Transportation and Development Policy, India. She is an urban designer from Cardiff University, UK, with bachelor degree in architecture. She is a sought-after expert in raising support for sustainable mobility from key decision makers, governments, and stakeholders. With support from her smart and enthusiastic team, she works with the national, state, and city governments, providing them with technical assistance on sustainable and equitable urban mobility. She has contributed for creating streets safe for walking, cycling, implementing travel demand measures such as parking reforms, building support for high-quality sustainable mass transit, and furthering electrification of urban transport. She believes in the simple joys of life, ordinary yet uncommon sights such as children playing carelessly, elderly chatting joyfully, and women traveling confidently in public places of our cities make her smile. Through her professional endeavor, she strives to create more such settings to allow many more such heartening experiences. I welcome Srimati Ashwathi Dilip for handling this session. As a moderator for this session, we have Sri S. Ajay-Kumar, a retired Chief Town Planner and former Chairman RERA. He was also a part of Kochi Smart City Mission Limited as a team leader of Project Management Consultant, Mrs. IP Global, and worked with Kochi Metro Limited as a team leader, project management consultant, Mrs. Antia Netherland, for IURWTS project. I welcome Sri Ajay Kumar sir for moderating this session. Finally, I welcome all members of ITPA KRC and other participants for the session for active participation. With this, I hand over the session to Mrs. Ashwathi for the talk on healthy cities through healthy streets through local area plans. Thank you.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Let me just share my screen for a minute.
Sure.
First of all, on the very first week of the new year, I am delighted to be here. So thank you so much for inviting me for this conversation. And I hope this is useful to all of you as well. So today, I'm here to speak about creating healthy cities through healthy streets. As ma'am said, I represent the Institute for Transportation and Development Policy, and I would like to quickly take you through who we are. So we are an organization that strives to transform cities by creating healthy streets, or streets for people, fast-tracking public transportation, helping cities move to shared and electric mobility, curbing congestion and emissions, and planning inclusive and compact cities. So we're really passionate about creating sustainable, inclusive, and equitable mobility in our cities. Now, we work across the world. We have offices in 7 regions, including New York, Mexico, Brazil, Africa, China, Indonesia, and India. In India, we are transforming a third of urban India. One of the programs that we're very proud of is the work that we do with the Ministry of Housing and Urban Affairs, while we also work in 3 states in a deep dive way in Maharashtra, Tamil Nadu, and Jharkhand. So with the Ministry of Housing and Urban Affairs, we've launched 2 programs called the India Cycles for Change and Streets for People Challenge, where we're helping cities through workshops, guidelines, as well as templates in transforming their streets. So these are some of the images of the offline workshops that we've been able to conduct the last 1 year, which brought together more than cities from officials from over 50 cities. This one was organized in Bangalore, and we had one in Chandigarh as well to help cities learn from one another. So while national is one of the areas that we work, we also work deep dive in states. And for example, I've just shown the kind of work we do in Tamil Nadu. We work with various state level agencies, but we also work with various departments in the cities to create best practice cities, or what we call the lighthouse cities. So now I'm going to dive into the topic at hand. So there are three questions that I'd really like us to ponder about during our discussion today. One is, why should we design our streets in the first place? Secondly, in the cities that we've been working with, what is the process that is followed by the cities who have embraced healthy streets? And what is the gap that cities face? What are the tools that we can use to fill this gap? And this is where, so what I'm going to try to do is to cover the whole process of healthy streets comprehensively, because to successfully implement healthy streets, various measures are required beyond only planning streets where the local area plans come in. But in the gap, I'd like to really focus on creating citywide network plans as well as local area plans, and how they can really help us in creating streets that are seamless across the entire city. So going into why should we design our streets? And for this, I'd like to share an example from our neighboring state and from the city of Chennai. Now, all cities create visions. And this is, for example, a vision laid in 2010 by Chennai in their comprehensive transportation study. Now here, if you see, they had said that by 2026, they want to retain walking and cycling mode share, and they want the public transport to nearly double while they cut private transport by more than half. However, you will see these visions in like plans or CMPs that are created by all cities. And now reality is very, very different. And if I can share a few images of that. Reality, the place where we invest money is more into measures such as flyovers, which what it does is that it allows vehicle population to rise at an alarming pace. And then when you look at the experiences of the citizens on the ground, when we had interviewed them, she had told us that na ennoda uyir kaila pudichu nadakren, which means that she actually walks by holding her heart in her hand. And this is not just her case. It is the case of everyone that is walking in our streets. And why is this the case? Because our streets are engulfed by parking, or where there is a footpath, if I may say so, it becomes a bit of a hurdle race. You have to climb up, climb down. So elderly, young children, women with children, etc., find it difficult to walk on these streets. And what does it do? So now just going back to seeing the CMP that Chennai had created in 2019, it showed that walking had decreased by 5%, while cycling was almost erased from our cities, while the car and two-wheeler population had increased, or the modal share of cars and two-wheelers had increased dramatically. Even when this has happened, if you see, 2/3 of the trips in the city continue to be on walking, cycling, and public transport. And basu ഉപയോഗിക്കുന്നോ മെട്രോയിലോ പോകുന്ന citizen aanengilum, they will also be walking and cycling to the bus stop or the metro station. So walking particularly, if I could highlight. Now, what happens when our cities are this way? This results in the loss of precious lives. So if we just consider one street, that is the old Mahabalipuram road in Chennai, you will notice that 34 deaths happened there, which is almost equal to the kind of deaths that happen in the whole city of Paris. So we are losing lives dramatically. And if you see, it's not just the road accidents, also inactive lifestyles is leading to more lives being lost in the state. And this is not the case only with Tamil Nadu. This might be the case in multiple cities and states. And this is why it is important for us to consider designing our streets or thinking about our streets differently. So we need a fairer distribution of road space. And we believe that cities should design their streets considering all types of modes and all types of users. So here comes healthy streets. Healthy streets are streets that focus on improving mobility, creating livability, as well as focusing on utilities. So let me just very quickly share the vision for healthy streets. We believe that every citizen should get a fair share of road space, whether the citizen is on a wheelchair or whether he's on a cycle or in the car. Everyone should be able to breathe clean air. These should be streets where no lives are lost, where walking and cycling are attractive, public transportation is easily accessible, where everybody, irrespective of their age, even whether you are 70 years old or whether you are 14 years old, you're able to move around the city seamlessly, where women, children, and elderly feel safe at all times, where our streets also become places where people can enjoy street life, where local businesses flourish, and where the design adapts to climatic changes. Now, if I may just go into the next process. So there are multiple cities who have been able to embrace healthy streets. Now, what is the process followed by these cities who have embraced healthy streets? I'm going to look at the comprehensive process that these cities have embraced, and we can discuss about this later as well. So as we design streets, one of the most important things that we need to identify is that a lot of champions have to come together. So you will have the commissioners of the city who needs to believe in it, the political leaders such as mayors who need to believe in this. There might be MLAs in the different regions who need to believe. Other than that, various departments, some of the streets in the city might belong to the highways, some streets might belong to urban development department. Some streets, because traffic is involved, the traffic police will play an important role. If there are, for the lighting, there would be the electrical department that is involved. For the pipes that run under the street, there would be various departments like water supply, etc. That is involved. So multiple champions need to come together, and it's very important for us to inspire these champions and build partnerships to take action. So here is an example where I'd like to show in Chennai, where the Chennai commissioner, the person in the striped shirt that you can see, the blue and white shirt right in the front, he had organized this walk with multiple different stakeholders. And you can see him struggling to climb the footpath because it was so high. It was then that he realized and he championed the Chennai Street Design Program, which over years have now transformed more than 150 kilometers of streets. And today they're looking to transform another 100 kilometers of streets. Now, in many of these cities, here you can see commissioners from Madurai, the person right here in the white shirt. He had taken multiple engineers from his team to the city of Pune to see how transformation has happened in these lighthouse cities, such that they can take the learnings back to their own cities and transform them as well. Now, as soon as the stakeholders are inspired, it is very important for us to convert these projects into demonstration projects. So here are examples where the city no longer started just changing their, so in the past, the footpath that you can see on your left-hand side picture, there is electricity box which is kept perpendicular, and as a result of which people were all walking on the road. So the city was in the past just removing the paved material and then relaying with new paved material. But for the first time, it moved away from this practice and it hired urban designers. So cities are hiring urban designers and architects or empaneling them to create better streets or healthier streets in their city. So you can see the street on the right is the transformed street and the street on the left is the one it was before. Here, a picture that I had shown you before, and just to see how with a very simple intervention of making sure that the street continues at the same level in front of all the property entrances as well, you can see how children and mothers are feeling safer on the street. Here is another street where Harrington Road, which has a lot of traffic and which had more than 5 schools. And you can see how when the street became a more healthier place, you can see healthier activities which are being embraced by the young children who are studying in this street. So these are multiple streets. Here again, it's not necessary that all your streets need to be arterial or subarterial or collector streets. Even in local streets, you can make them safer by providing footpaths. Now, some principles that we have ensured that these cities have embraced is that in the past, when the width of the road varied in different places, as they changed their design, they ensured that one street only had one width of carriageway. The footpaths were always at one level. When they were parking, they ensured that they used minimal space for parking and they moved parked vehicles from perpendicular to parallel parking. They ensured that the intersections became compact and had more spaces for people to wait while they cross and making the whole intersection safer. In our Indian condition, it's very, very important to ensure that there's shade for the comfort of our pedestrians, and hence they've added shade and livened it up with places for people to sit, etc. And they've also ensured that the utilities are planned for such that they don't need to dig up the street immediately after the street has been redesigned. Now, as a result of these interventions, streets such as these were transforming from what it looks like to public spaces. These were streets which were inclusive for all, including people with special abilities, with a vibrant street furniture where needed, where there was play equipment for children such that it is lively for them as well. These streets are well lit, which makes women feel comfortable and confident using these spaces in the night as well. With tree cover and planters, as I'd mentioned, free shuttle where necessary for moving people with limited mobility, and with safe access to public transportation so that people can not only walk within the local areas, but can also travel further distances using public transportation. Now, while these designs are being created, it is very, very essential for us to engage our champions of change, who are our citizens or the community itself. So sometimes, in Chennai, for example, they were planning to pedestrianize a city, and they embraced the tool of car-free Sundays to help citizens reimagine how a street can be if that street is not filled with cars. So for example, this is Kohima, which wanted to change this area into a public space, and they embraced trials to test and build consensus. So the same parking space was converted into a public plaza with carriageway delineated so that traffic can continue to move. So these tools have also been used to bring or build support of citizens as well. Similarly, right at the beginning of the projects itself, the cities embrace public consultation to ensure that citizens are brought on board. And sometimes, for example, in one of the streets, which was a very market sort of an area, the shopkeepers decided to say, no, if such a project is coming, we will shut our shops because we believe that all our shoppers come by using cars. So we did perception surveys of the shoppers to understand what is their interest, and realized that more than 90% of people were either coming by public transport or were happy to park close by and walk down as well. So these are the different tools that were used for engaging with our stakeholders. And here again is a stakeholder discussion with just the shopkeepers in that neighborhood. And together, it's sometimes important, or often important, for us to create a shared vision. So it's not just the vision of the town planner or the designer or the commissioner, but also to create a shared vision with the citizens as well. Here is an example of the street. This was the vision. This is the street as it was before. And this is to show you how the street was transformed. And just to show the quantum of public space that was created in the heart of Chennai, in one of the streets, which was really bustling with activity. Now, as these changes happen, the next important thing is that it's not just a one-off change. We do need to embed these changes through policies and standards. So here, Chennai not only adopted an NMT policy, but it also created guidelines so that when multiple streets and multiple neighborhoods get transformed, there is a connecting thread amongst all of these streets as well. These guidelines gave, they detailed out street design elements, and they also detailed out the different kind of right of ways that can be redesigned. What are the intersections? What are the street materials, etc. Now, last but not the least, as we expand, this is a new way of designing streets. And like you all are very, wonderfully doing these webinar series, it is important for us to build the capacity of multiple team members, which are engineers, town planners, or traffic police, etc. So here is about 20 to 25 engineers of Chennai visiting Pune to see the streets in Pune. And the man in the light brown shirt in the middle is the chief engineer who was visiting. They also organize various exposure visits to multiple other countries such as Singapore, or international visits and national visits, to make sure that the team believes in this concept and is well equipped. There are also formal training programs. For example, Chennai organized a 4-week, 1 day per week, 4-week course with the Anna University and ITDP for training the officials as well. So just to summarize, we were looking at inspiring decision makers and turning that inspiration into demonstration projects, engaging with the community to build their support, embed the change in policies, plans, and guidelines, and then expanding it through capacity building. Now, as we are engaging with cities, there is a gap that cities face. When they take these demonstration or pilot projects, as we say, it is sometimes spread in different parts of the city. They do not connect seamlessly with a network of streets. So let's look at what are the tools that we can use to fill these gaps. So one of the most important things is that we should create continuous networks and not discontinuous. If you can see these, some of these green lines on the top, these purple lines, the streets are not connecting. Once you get out, 1 kilometer matram nadannal porallo. So you will have to walk till the next bus stop or the next, metro station, for example. And our connectivity is very, very important. So this is where we think that it is essential for us to create plans at 2 levels. One is to create a city-wide plan. So if you have a comprehensive mobility plan that you're creating, or if there's a master plan that you're creating, you can always create a walking and cycling network plan. As well as you also need to look at the local area and see how that particular area can be rejuvenated as well. So what this does is that this gives you an opportunity to densify the street network. It helps you identify what kind of intervention you are looking at various different kind of streets. And it also ensures that you have a seamless network of streets across the city. Now, why do we need this network plan? It is very, very important for us to identify the quantum of infrastructure that we need. 1 kilometer, 2 kilometer, alla namakku vendathu. Nammade cities lo nokkiyal, there would be hundreds or thousands of kilometers of streets that need to be designed. And the intervention might vary from different kinds. So the different types of streets have different, you will need a street inventory. It will help you create the budget estimate and also allocate budget for DPR preparation, but hiring consultants, and also for sourcing budgets for implementation. Now here, so what we suggest is that at the very first step, it's very important for us to have a baseline information for the entire city. So it would be good to have a GIS map, which has, if your city has done any walking and cycling interventions, mapping the existing interventions, looking at where there are accident areas, identifying routes which are frequented by cyclists and pedestrians, identifying if there are some proposed projects that have been identified in the CMP or DP, taking routes which are suggested by their citizens, and also making sure that these routes connect to city level destinations as well as local destinations. Now, once that street network is created in the city, it's important for you to identify the arterial streets, collector streets, as well as local streets. Now, here is where the gap comes. once you map these streets, it is also important for us to make sure that they connect to major public transport, shared auto rickshaw corridors, as well as city level destinations and other connections as well. Now, when you then zoom from the city level into a local area, if you can see, this is a particular area in Ahmedabad, which was selected for local areas. There is only about 22% of the area under public domain or streets. So some of the blocks, notice these are comparatively larger blocks. So the local area plan will help us and give us an opportunity to create a more denser network of streets by maybe making use of the spaces, the setbacks that are provided between buildings, etc., to create this possible walking and cycling networks at least. So you can have potential shorter linkages. We can also provide mid-block crossings where essential. So all of that detailed design, the local area plan becomes an extremely good tool for us to create this, which otherwise would be impossible for us to do, and which is what we are noticing as gaps in multiple other cities. Now, once you have densified the network, we can work with a few local area plans to start with, and maybe you can look at indicators like neighborhoods with high road accident counts, etc. Now, once you have identified the local area and the streets that you are going to be implementing, it would be good to see what kind of interventions are you doing in these different streets. So if the street, in streets where the speed is above 15 kilometers, we would like, it would be good to have segregated footpaths. If the speeds are higher than 30 kilometers per hour, and if the space is, if there is space, we should look at creating segregated cycle tracks. There might be certain streets which are local area, which are within your neighborhood, which you might want to traffic calm. There might be walking and cycling only streets where there's walking, cycling, and public transport only. There are some places where cities create cycle highways, intersections, which are the intersections that we want to highlight. In some cities, there are bridges for just walking and cycling as well. And where are all the different areas in your street that you are going to have mid-block crossings? All of this is possible to be identified in a local area plan. Now, once you do that, it would be good for you to identify which are the different kind of interventions, how do they pan out in across the city, also in the local area plans that you have highlighted. Now, for each of these local area plans, you can also create a street inventory. So in that particular local area, you can come up with all the list of streets. What is the, where do they start? Where do they end? What is the width of the street? What is the intervention that is being suggested? So this becomes a great place for you to plan your next steps as well. With this, the next steps would include looking at project packaging, identifying which are the first phases that you want to work on, which are the ones that you would like to prioritize, and then identifying the cost and the timeline as well. Sometimes, cities have a plan for 3 years and at the same time priority for the first year. So all of this is possible when you use these multiple tools. Now, here is an example where I want to showcase when there is no local area plan, what is the problem that happens? So, for example, this is in Chennai. It's a multimodal integration plan that is being developed. There is a bus stop on one side. There is a metro station on. There is a suburban railway station, which you can see in the middle. You can see the tracks that are going. And on the other side, you can see it is written that Guindy Metro Station. There is also another bus stop on the opposite side. Pakshe, they have been looking at it as an intervention in this area only. So if you can see, there are public spaces that have been created. There is elevated walkways that have been created to move from the railway station to the metro station to cross the road on the other side. However, if they had developed this area as a local area plan, all the residences which are on both sides would also be integrated into this particular proposal, if I may say so. So here, unfortunately, without looking at the area, they have prioritized this node. So at least this is a step in the right direction, but having looked at the entire area would have given us a lot more opportunity of connecting our citizens where they live to the destination, which will take them to farther areas as well. So this is just an example of what they've planned in the city. So once again, just to summarize the points that we have discussed, the process embraced includes inspiring champions and building partnerships to take action, implementing demonstration projects and turning the inspiration into action, engaging with the community to create champions of change, embedding the change through standards, policy adoption, and the creation of network plans as well as local area plans, as well as expanding transformation through institutional reforms and capacity building. Now, as I said in the beginning, we've been working with multiple cities, more than 100 cities, through the programs that we have with the Ministry of Housing and Urban Affairs. And here is just a glimpse of what multiple cities have achieved. So Adhyam, they have just tested it out with cones, and they've also taken their citizens on the ground through the handlebar surveys and walking audits. They have done cycling training camps for women and children so that cycle in order to learn how to cycle. And these are some glimpses of the work being converted into permanent change as well. And just to share, there 32 cities created committees which brought together multiple departments. Multiple cities are creating what we call the Healthy Streets Cell, that is bringing together engineers within each city to focus on the creation of healthy streets. They are organizing campaigns to make sure any street that is being created is well used by the citizens, and more than 51 cities are actually implementing walking and cycling infrastructure. So as of now, in the data that we've received from these cities, over 500 kilometers of footpaths and cycle tracks were created in the last 1 year, and more than 1,200 kilometers the cities are working towards to be implemented soon. So I truly believe that through this process, we can visualize a better future where not just the most abled, പക്ഷേ നമ്മുടെ children, നമ്മുടെ വയസ്സായ ആൾക്കാര്, if there are women who are pregnant, all of us as citizens, we are able to utilize or experience our streets to the fullest possible way. So we really look forward to supporting and helping cities transform their streets into healthy streets and creating happy cities as well. Thank you so much for this opportunity once again. And all of this work that I've shared is work that has been done by various partners. So the city departments, the champions in these particular cities, and a large team at ITDP who's also worked relentlessly. So thanks to all of them. And thank you once again for this great opportunity. Let me stop sharing.
Raji, Raji, you are muted.
Thank you, Ashwati, for the wonderful presentation, and I invite Ajay Kumar sir for moderating the session.
Thank you, Raji. It was a wonderful presentation backed by solid experience, I feel, as everybody can see. Actually, we may be seeing all these presentations right during the past 25-30 years, but nothing was happening. But fortunately, for the last few years, or I can say a decade, a lot of things are happening according to the wishes of the people, town planners and urban designers. And these things are happening due to the incessant work of the planning people in cooperation with the corporation, decision makers, administrators, shopkeepers, and all right from the people who are driving auto rickshaws to people who are driving BMW. So it's actually not so oriented towards a single section of people, but oriented towards the whole society. I would say that I had some experience while working with the smart city of Cochin Smart Mission Limited, where I could possibly implement a few things or a lot of things which have been discussed in this presentation. So I feel that this is possible. It's a big what do you call result that I could find out. It is possible. Only thing is that you may need two things. One, that vision, and second, a little bit of money to be spent on such things. Now, money, of course, is not a rare thing nowadays. We get a lot of money from Ministry of Housing and Urban from the central government through different schemes. So the thing is that we have to have the vision to spend the money on things which can change, and possibly there lies the problem, and who will anticipate and who will design the things which can change. So here comes the role of the planners who are trained for imagining a city a couple of decades in the future. So it is their responsibility also to tell the administrators that this is possible. Now, thing is that communicating with the administrators and politicians is a different ball game, and you have to be very competent in that thing. And for that thing, one of the best thing is that show them some demonstration projects. And nowadays, as Shruti has shown us, there are several demonstration projects which we can tell them that go see and understand yourself. You can. There's no need of sermonizing or telling you this is possible or not. You just go yourself, see with your eyes, and get acquainted with the tools. But I see from my experience, I'm not going into details about that thing. It's a huge, it's hugely difficult problem. In the city of Cochin, as part of the Smart Mission Limited, we had this around 8 kilometers of roads to be developed as smart roads. And the first, I remember in the initial days when we told that we will limit our carriageway to 7.5 meters. I don't know. I just escaped from that meeting because it was really they were bashing us, including the PWD engineers, collector, and all those things. They said it's not possible. How can you reduce the road space for these things? Then I told them that who is reducing the space? We are only sharing the space. Okay, now the cars are not the only thing, and you need the footpaths and the cycle tracks and all those things. So it's only a sharing. It's a different sort of sharing. It is very difficult to convince them. But finally, our MD stood with us. Okay, let's have it. Even though he was not very convinced about that. Okay, let us see. Go ahead with that thing. And now I think that is the one thing which we can show to many others in Kerala, that thing is possible. Shanmugam Road and Park Avenue Road and AM Road and Abraham Adamaka Road, all having the same width and same footpath, and the remaining width after the 7.5 meters we used for wider footpath. And I say after a few years, 1 or 2 years after completing these roads, we could see the people are using it very happily. The things, it's been completely being used. Nobody is going into the tarmac and getting into accidents. They are using it. So it's possible. But the problem is that when it comes to construction, you see, we had to make underground these utilities like electricity, these things, and there's a hell lot of effort, but I don't think it is insurmountable. And one thing that Shruti showed that that electrical unit, that's RMU. You see, that is because they don't care about that RMU unit. because that unit is a requirement, of course. But there are different shapes of, there are units which are having different shapes with lesser width and wider length or something like that. So you can keep it parallel to the compound wall and free the remaining footpath for people. So similar things can happen. This can be done also. So I remember that this levels of the footpath, and that was very difficult for the people. There was nobody against that thing. These were the contractors who were against that thing. It is very difficult to make them understand that that is there is a requirement. Every time you get out, you come out of the engineers go out of the site, they will do the whole thing. And they say it is like that, there it is like that, there it is like that, somewhere else is like that. So what is the problem? I don't understand. So I mean, even the contractors also has to come into the picture where you have to tell them that this is not something from our head or something like that. This is something which is required for the people, those who want to walk and those things. Okay, that is something from my experience. Everybody may have that kind of experience. Okay, now it is open to all. Let's have a discussion on this fantastic presentation. It's open to you, please. There is a starting block, I think, okay. Akhil, you start.
Thank you, sir. So it was a wonderful presentation, ma'am. You have given us a live example of the things happening around our neighboring state itself. So we should not go far away to think that it is happening somewhere else or this thing. I just wanted to know whether this local area plans, which we are saying, has been implemented, you are saying, in some parts, or it is what the area they have taken? Means it is a street which they have taken, or a big chunk of land which they have taken to do this type of exercise?
Yeah, Akhil, actually, very, very good question. And, before I start, I agree with Ajay Kumar, sir, 100%, because we are all like the warriors. We are the ones who are going to change the future such that the contractors will only know the new norm that we create. Because sir, contractors was a very difficult thing for us to deal with. Even, for example, Coimbatore, the contractors were very difficult. And we had to send them also to Pune to see the, telling them to go to Pune to see that. And then they came so inspired that they were like, so they wanted to do good work, but they hadn't seen it. So they couldn't understand what we meant. And then, so it's a big journey. So we are, in some senses going to war. So prepare make it really nice and strong and then go. It is definitely not an easy thing. Sir actually was talking about 7.5 meters. 6 meters, 6.5. So that time, there's a lot of pushback. Again, when we take them to other cities where it works, it sometimes works. There's always a lot of relationship. Even in any relationship, there's always a give and take. So okay, we started with 6.5, 7.5 will pogam. That kind of a little bit of a negotiation, we should be prepared for it. Design attitude for urban spaces, urban planning and urban design will not work. You will have to see what are the gains that you're getting, and if you need to give up a little thing, you might have to, I won't say it's little, everything is important, but you will have to decide where to move, give up on certain places. Secondly, Akhil, coming to your question, so the thing is, normally when we see these cities, we think, oh, they've done all of this, we should just do all of this. But cities go through a process. So if a sir പറഞ്ഞ പോലെ തന്നെ ആദ്യത്തെ സാറുടെ streets when കൊച്ചിയിൽ ചെയ്യുമ്പം that must have received a lot of like, it must have required a lot of pushing. Whereas now somebody might see those streets that sir was talking about and be okay about doing 7.5. So ചെന്നൈയിലാണെങ്കിലും ആദ്യം they had just taken streets, and those streets were in different parts of the city. Initially, they did not have money to hire urban designers. So the urban designers came on board on a voluntary basis. So they were like, okay, we will create designs, because there were no examples, not only in Chennai, but also in other cities in the country. So let us create some examples. After that, we realized that these small chunks in different places were not adding up, and that you need to start connecting them. Now, where the city is, when I spoke about the, the 100 kilometers, the city has identified 6 neighborhoods, and it is creating a walking and cycling network plan for the 6 neighborhoods. However, I don't think like local area plan is a tool that we have still not utilized to the fullest. So if you look at cities like Ahmedabad, example, like they have really looked at not just streets. So in the local area plan, it's not just the streets. It's also about how, one is about streets, improving walkability, etc. 2 is also about, looking at densities. Like if there is a metro line, should we look at higher densities there? Then about mix of uses, because we don't want a place which is only very active during the daytime, and by everybody is going to work. Going back home, and the place becomes like a, a deserted place. It'll be very unsafe. So as a result, looking at like mixture, like a lot of aspects to the local area plan, which I don't think our cities have utilized to the fullest right now. And I think, just like sir was saying, we have now a bunch of cities that have pioneered or at least started taking action towards reimagining streets. Some cities have to really take on the activity of utilizing local area planning tool to the fullest and become examples for others to, like others to also learn from.
Okay, ma'am. Thank you. One more question was there. Can I speak?
I'll wait for
Rajesh, please.
Yeah, it was a good presentation. I'm Rajesh here. Everything has to be networked, like you have rightly said, from one point connecting to the next point, and then getting board all these people to push these things. Somehow, like Adeykumar sir has already mentioned, we have started that process and we are building it up slowly. There's a lot of effort that has to be put to bring in these people into the network. I'd like to know a little more about that Chennai experience. Like you have already mentioned that from 2010, it was taken a decision and it's still going on. So the perseverance and the continuity, how it was able to continue with that perseverance, and then how that was networked into a project actually. Here in Kerala also, now there's a, at the government level itself, there is a thinking that we have to make the cities beautiful. Chennai has a lot of stuff, like now they have made the biggest mural space, and then that walking car free for Sundays on that street. I forgot the name of the street. All those as interventions that people have understanding how to what are the benefits of it, and then they started. Once we have that, then it is easy for us to implement these projects. So how that this long duration work you have that Chennai has been able to do it.
Yeah, Mr. Raj. I think, I think you yourself mentioned about how, you used the word perseverance, and I was just writing patience and perseverance. One of the things that we sometimes, like as being partners to the city, but outside the official, like boundary, if I may say so, is that we need to know that it takes years and it requires persistent follow up. So the city initially created its first set of streets in 2004. And if you see the quality of those streets, it was only about getting the basics right. That is just getting streets in one, like footpaths in one level, making sure the streets is in one width, etc. Then as year went by, we kept, there was a community of non-profit partners as well who kept working with the city to keep pushing and thinking of new ideas as well. In fact, Pondi Bazaar, the pedestrian plaza that I had shown, that particular project was for multiple years in a bit of a limbo because it did not have funding. World Bank had said that they would give funding, but they wanted an EI, like an environment impact assessment, a social impact assessment. They wanted, like, the consultants changed thrice in that particular project. So if we had given up on that project, that public space will not be there, but we continued to persist and work with the government. And finally, luckily for us, the smart city money came in, and then the government said, no, we don't want World Bank money. We will prioritize this as a smart city initiative, and then took it up under smart cities initiative. Once that project came, that project was actually launched by the chief minister at that point. And he made the announcement that we will now scale it up to 10 other locations. But to tell you honestly, the whole journey, like Sir Varnamala, you sometimes go into these meetings and you wonder, will you come out like breathing, or will they like really bash you? Because there were multiple projects, like multiple times, like I said, where the shopkeeper said they will not open the shops if this project goes in. So it's very important, like, sometimes as planners, designers, we are very focused on the technical part of our work, getting our plan right, getting our design right. But equally important is getting buy-in from our political leaders, from our decision makers like commissioner, from the citizens. So strategy to make sure that the project moves ahead is also a very important component. And one thing that I keep repeating is that in order to see results, we need to be very patient and perseverant. Sometimes commissioners marumbol, priorities marum. Like for us, like what also happened was that the leadership changed politically. So then it took a couple of years to bring back the importance on this work. So the work was very slow for 2 years. All of this is something that we need to be prepared for. And each time think about new strategies and partnerships which can push this at various levels.
Shashivan sir, കേൾക്കുന്നുണ്ടോ?
ഞാൻ സംസാരിക്കട്ടെ സർ? It was a very wonderful presentation. Really happy to see actual work happening on ground, and like it is very essential. Definitely, it is very essential for not just women, for all everyone, especially people who have some kind of difficulty in moving around, and people who do not own cars, and people who use public transport. So it is a great step towards making our cities humane. So I think we should definitely think of starting with some examples in our cities also. Maybe on wherever we have adjoining land uses where government of property or which can be manageable, not just shopkeepers. So if we can identify such stretches, we should also start. So that is why, that is what I feel. Immediately we should also start. We should not be lagging behind. Thank you for the presentation.
Thank you, ma'am. And I think, I really think Kerala is also creating its own examples. Like Sir spoke about Kochi. I'd been to Calicut because I'm from Kozhikode, and SM Street used to be the most congested street in that I ever knew that Kozhikode had. And one fine day when I went there, the whole street was transformed into a pedestrian plaza. I feel one of the other big gaps is that nammala ഒന്നോ രണ്ടോ കുറച്ച് കിലോമീറ്റർ സ്ട്രീറ്റ്സ് ട്രാൻസ്ഫോം ചെയ്തതിന്റെ ശേഷം ദാറ്റ് സ്കെയിൽ അപ്പ് ഇവിടെ നിന്ന് എങ്ങോട്ട്, like, this is a very good, like, we've created this one great pilot, but we need to continue to strive to think about from here where. So thinking about a vision for the entire city, and then working in local areas or neighborhood plans, that the neighborhoods that can be transformed are quite important as well. So initially, for the cities that haven't done things, of course, the initial pilot is very, very important, because our example, we can show it to others and then convince them. But from there, then how do you scale up and how do you bring these different departments, Korea departments, political leaders, LRM, like we have to bring them together to buy this vision. So we also need to come together as an army to convert or convince them as well.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, please. Anybody else? Pencil?
Yes, sir. Thank you for the invite, sir. Actually, I was traveling and I joined a little late, so I couldn't hear most of the portions of the presentations, but I was through the later second half of the presentation and all through the discussion I was listening. It was a very interesting conclusion of the presentation. And yes, as Ajay Kumar sir said, to convince the decision makers and the city administrators, their political counterparts, etc., is a very difficult task. And in fact, as Ashwathi rightly said, it is in fact the scope of work of the urban planners. So we cannot dilute saying that it is not our work. So they have to be automatically convinced that we cannot take for granted. So convincing them is one of the important aspects or works which we have to undertake. In fact, so the question is that the Chennai, in Tamil Nadu, you have done these works in practical, right? If I am correct. Okay. So what strategy was taken to make this decision, or to come to that decision-making point, so that this can be implemented? I'm sorry if I am repeating something, if I am asking something which is already explained in the presentation. So how did you strategize that action point to get this decision taken? What was the strategy adopted for that? Rather than the planning part, I'm more interested in that decision-making or administrative part. So if you can explain further a little bit on that, it would be great. Thank you.
Yeah, sure, Denzel. I mean, I think I slightly touched on the point, but I can go a bit in detail as well. So like you said, we're working in multiple states. So Tamil Nadu, Maharashtra, a lot of work in Pune and Pimpri Chinchwad, like those cities as well, and then many cities across through the national program. So if I ippathu sthithiyum, like, maybe looking at, like, for example, 2004, 2005, it was different. At that point, sometimes that the decision maker is a nice person. Pakshe Adeham, always he or she is traveling in the car, always driven by a driver. So in fact, in the car is when they're taking the calls, when they are, sending their messages. So they don't know it is unfortunate to say, but then because they don't walk on the streets, they don't know the difficulty of those walking on the street. So I had shared this initially. One of a very good strategy that worked for us was that when we identified that the commissioner was a person who is really interested in changing the city, we just said, "Sir, can you come with us for a walk? Let's just take and show you what our citizens face when they are on the road." He was happy to invite others as well. So multiple departments, we went off the street. That's when he really realized, because it's not like our decision makers don't care. It's just sometimes that they don't have that experience up. So if we're able to convince them, that walk was very, very different. That walk really turned out to be very, very useful for us. That was number one. Number two, we've realized that, it's always good to show the vision. So always have renderings to show what is it that you want that space to transform into. Showing, if you cannot take them to a different place, at least show them the images of what is happening, and wherever possible, please, we do study tours. So through the, as you missed initially, Namala, we're also through the national government, Ministry of Housing and Urban Affairs, we're doing some national level programs. So even a strategy and from the national government, from the Smart Cities Mission, there is a call going to the city saying you have to implement these streets. So when that is coming, even for the local regional planners or urban designers, push on. They can say that, ministry is asking us to do it, sir. So like when there is a push from some higher ups, like at the state level or at the city level, that will also go a long way from the political leaders maybe pushing back, or from the commission. Like they might initially say, okay, let's just do it, because they're asking. And we always plan to have like site visits to cities like Bangalore or Chandigarh, just seeing the change and seeing how people use the Ajay Kumar sir parne bole, like Kochi, when they created that footpath, like even I was in Kochi a few days back and I saw a lot of people sitting on the footpaths, like, walking there. The whole environment actually changes. Now, a big problem that does come in is also the budget. How do you create budgets for these? Because these projects are comparatively a bit more expensive. And now it is not like our cities don't spend money. Like every flyover that we create sometimes is 50, 100 crores, or sometimes even going up much more expensive as well. So it's also a prioritization. Citizens, what is it that we are prioritizing also? So we have looked at strategies where, one, to inspire the decision maker who is in the city itself, sometimes also using MLA routes, whatever ways in which, like whom does that decision maker trust? Who is, like, sometimes, it's not the decision maker that you need to convince. If you can convince people who speak to the decision makers or continuously tell him or her that this is the right thing to do, that is also a great way to go about. So convincing decision makers, sometimes in non-profit partners, if we are a bunch of people who go to a decision maker and say, sir, like, so it's not just one person, but we have the power of us as being together. So multiple strategies we've been utilizing. Some work in some regions, some don't. So for example, certain cities where the government is opposing the national government, they may not want a national scheme. They would not push for a national scheme. So depending on which city, your strategy has to change. Elder kuttikum, cheria kuttikum, you can't have the same strategy. You have to have a different strategy. Every city is unique, every political leader is unique, every decision maker is unique. But there might be something that is of interest to them. Identifying what is their interest and then, like changing the dialogue to suit their interest as well might go a long way.
Thank you.
Yeah, is there anybody else? If nobody else, then Raji or Raquel can wind up, I feel. And before that, I thank ITPI for giving me this opportunity to moderate this talk. That was an excellent talk. Once again, thank Ashwati also for spending some time for this web talk. And over to Raji, maybe you can wind up the talk.
I invite Akhil to mention the vote of thanks for the session.
Thank you, ma'am. On behalf of ITPI Kerala Regional Chapter, I would like to thank our speaker, Srimati Ashwati Dilip, madam, for making a wonderful presentation. As not only a presentation, but it was an interactive session also, we can say. She has explained her and shared her experience working in Chennai as well as Pune and in other cities also. So I would rather say it is a presentation. It was really an interactive session where she has expressed how a planner or a common people should work and focus on how to make a city better for living, for not only for a particular society, type of a person, but different aspects of this society. So I once again thank Ashwati madam for accepting our request and giving a wonderful presentation. Thank you, ma'am. I would also mention our deep sense of appreciation for S. Ajay Kumar sir for accepting our request in a short notice and to be a moderator for this presentation. So he has shared and initiated the talking by sharing his experience. So you have started this interactive session, sir. So once again, thank you for being a moderator for our web talk series, sir. I would also thank Kila Thrissur for providing support for webcasting the web series. At last, I would want to extend my gratitude to and thanks to all and entire participants, including planners and experts of different fields who had spared their valuable time. Again, thank you all. Thank you all for attending our web series.